Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and interesting episode for you guys today, and one that you basically blew up my Twitter and Discord inboxes about, because overnight Palmer Lucky and ModRetro showed off some teaser footage of their new Nintendo 64 FPGA based console called the M64. I'm assuming that stands for ModRetro 64 and not Nintendo 64, but it would be funny if that was the case. And it seems like there is a very big race, pun very much intended because of the Wave Race 64 footage here, to get a console to the market that uses FPGA technology, plays Nintendo 64 games, and uses original cartridges, because obviously we already have Mr. FPGA, the footage you are seeing here. But a video was posted by ModRetro showing off this console running Mario Kart 64, and it looks like it's definitely a 90s style bedroom or living room. That is a fun vibe, and you'll see here it says no peaking until Christmas, so it seems like the console will either be available to purchase by Christmas or at least shown off. Obviously it's a teaser, we kind of have to infer a few things from there, but it was stated that this was real footage running on the console, so we'll have to take them at their word. And like I said earlier in the year, we talked about this teaser announcement where you had the M64 logo, two of them in fact, as well as that Trident style controller. And even though no one came out and said it was exactly an N64 FPGA console, it was pretty easy to read between the lines, because there is no controller that looks like that, thankfully, at least in my opinion, because I never did like the Nintendo 64 controller, but you can disagree with me in the comments. But it was clearly obvious exactly what ModRetro was teasing. It was a Nintendo 64 console, and it seems like ModRetro is trying to go directly after Analogue as a competitor, because they have the Chromatic, which is basically an Analog Pocket without the open FPGA. Now Analog Pocket is releasing soon, but still delayed the Analogue 3D, so it seems like ModRetro is just basically trying to compete directly with Analogue by shipping very similar projects, and hopefully on a better time frame. If you go on the website right now, you can lock in a pre-order price as well. The fun part is they stated this was going to be the same price as it sold back in the day. So honestly, for that early bird price, a $199 FPGA Nintendo 64 console would definitely be something that a lot of people would be interested in. And because we don't have the Analog 3D on the market yet, we can't review it, it will be impossible to say which one of these would be the better option, or if either of them would actually beat out Mr. FPGA and Robert or FPGA Zoom Spass's core, until we actually test them side by side by side. But apparently if you do want to lock in that $199 pre-order price, you just have to give them an email, and that's going to be something that gets you in the list. And you can definitely email me at this very real email that I am typing on the screen now, just to explain the overall concept of how this works. But it looks like we're going to have a 3 FPGA band race by the end of the year, or maybe early 2026, because we're going to have the Mr. FPGA core, we're going to have the ModRetro M64, and that's really hard to say, I keep wanting to say N, and we're going to have potentially the Analog 3D, because they state there's not going to be any more delays on that, but it is analog, so we're just going to have to wait and see. So it'll be fun to do these three-way heads up tests between all three of the options to tell you guys later on which one is going to be the choice for you. And as far as whether or not this is going to be a single run like Analog does and they close pre-orders, or they're going to open them back up again, I have absolutely no idea. We're just going to have to wait and see. It seems like, at least on the Analog 3D front, you cannot pre-order a console or order one anymore, and I have no clue if they're going to actually run a second batch. We will just have to wait and see. But obviously Nintendo 64 carries a lot of cachet as far as the console is concerned, and nostalgia from the 90s. Basically everyone played N64, so even though we don't have an FPGA console for PlayStation 1 or Sega Saturn that actually takes original media yet, obviously we have those on the Mr. FPGA side of things just without the physical media. We will soon on the Superstation 1 for PlayStation 1 discs. There's definitely a big race going on, again pun intended, for the Wave Race footage to get different consoles to market that both are working on FPGA technology as well as can take original media, because that's one thing that Mr. FPGA doesn't do right now. Dotaki Udon and Retro Remake fork the Mr. FPGA project for Superstation 1, but I would say it's definitely the #1 request I get as far as what people want to see on Mr. FPGA, and it's not a surprise at all that they use this footage from Mario Kart. If you know, you know. I'll explain it a little bit exactly why that footage right there is pretty iconic in the emulation scene. But you'll see here, Palmer Lucky stated that this is real gameplay on real hardware using our real core. Now somebody asked if this is the Mr. FPGA core, and it wasn't answered, but based on the language alone, we could presume that ModRetro has written their own core, but of course assumptions are never good, so we're just going to have to wait and get confirmation for that later on down the line. But as far as the test footage is concerned, running on their actual core, you'll see here the Jumbotron and Mario Kart 64 works, and even though that's something that's been buttoned up forever on the Mr. FPGA side of things, an early Nintendo 64 emulation emulation, that Jumbotron never worked is basically a sign of we've gotten things right. Now there's definitely a lot of questions asked here. The most interesting one, will M64 upscale to 4K? And then Palmer Lucky's answer is a little bit confusing. It says upscale is the wrong word for what we're doing in my opinion, but yes, you could read that as 4K upscale, maybe even some internal upscaling to the actual assets, or you could just read that as some vague answer that we just don't really know what's going on yet. And I know a lot of people would love to see an FPGA console for Nintendo 64 that actually internally upscaled some of the assets, because on certain emulators you can actually make Nintendo 64 look much better than it ever did back in the day, because on Mr. FPGA and Analogue 3D, the upscale is actually post. So what you're doing is you're rendering the game internally at the resolution with all of the assets that it would run on real Nintendo 64 hardware, and then you take that finalized image and you upscale that to 4K. So as far as what the M64 would be doing, I really have no idea. I can read that answer both directions, internal rendering resolution bumps, as well as just something that I don't understand whatsoever because the answer is too vague. So let's have to wait and see. The nice thing is, apparently just like the Chromatic and the Game Boy Color cartridges, it seems like ModRetro is planning on producing actual new N64 cartridges. They're already working with a bunch of great Nintendo 64 devs, both new and old, so it would be really fun to see reprints of classic games if they could get the licenses for them, but it would also be really fun to see some of the amazing mods out there actually get their own cart releases. And you'll see here people are definitely talking about reviewing them. Even I mentioned it because I know you guys are going to want to see stuff like this, but just so you know, I never contact a company and ask for review units. They usually come to me, so we'll just have to wait and see if ModRetro rings my doorbell. I'm not exactly anticipating it though. But I would love to see, like I said, these reproduction cartridges come to N64. There's so many fun fan mods out there for games, and obviously you couldn't really repro those because they have a license they don't own, but there's a ton of really creative original games out there as well for N64, and I would love to see those actually get physical prints. It would be so much fun to get them in a box. That's one of the most fun things ModRetro does in my opinion, not just making a handheld FPGA that obviously has been done by Analogue already, but actually having their own publishing line where you can buy physical copies of games. They're only running like 40 bucks. Honestly, it is a very nice price to have a new physical game for your Game Boy Color and just be able to play it. So to see that happen on N64 would also be a ton of fun. That's definitely something I would love to see. And if you take a look here as well, the Chromatic is now back in manufacturing because again, people have been trying to get a hold of these things. I don't personally have one because I have the Analogue Pocket. I didn't want to spend all the money just to review a handheld and then put it back in my desk like I do most things, but it is back out there. So hopefully the M64 would have the exact same sales kind of perspective where there was a pre-order process, and then if that was successful, they did more runs of the system. But again, I have no idea. So if you're going to ask me when it goes on sale and how many are going to be made, I know exactly as much as you do in that respect, which is to say absolutely nothing. I'd be guessing just like you would, but hopefully it is one of those systems that doesn't just go to a pre-orders process, never sell again, and end up getting scalped on eBay, because those one and done runs like you see with Analogue just end up absolutely benefiting the scalper market but don't actually benefit you. And like I said earlier, it definitely seems like ModRetro just absolutely trying to eat Analogue's lunch. The Analogue Pocket exists, so ModRetro makes a handheld as well. Now granted, the Analogue Pocket has open FPGA, so there is more core potential, but nothing is saying that somebody like ModRetro couldn't just make their own open FPGA style console, something like the M64, allowing it to load up other cores and just let people develop whatever they want for it, because obviously FPGA gaming is absolutely the new frontier in retro gaming hardware in 2025 and beyond, and absolutely everyone wants a taste of that. And because Analogue 3D is delayed at least until August, they haven't stated anything, so let's hope it does ship. Other people are going to go out there and they're going to try to do the same business model. We already know ModRetro can successfully ship a handheld because they've already done that, so it'll be really interesting to see what the M64 looks like and what it does differently and what it does similarly to Mr. FPGA and Analogue 3D. But honestly, if you're a fan of N64 and you want to play around in FPGA, your options are going to definitely be growing by the back half of 2025. The Mr. FPGA core got there first, did an excellent job of it, and now we're going to have two different FPGA consoles running N64, but it seems like ModRetro is definitely trying to come in cheaper because it's not going to be $299, it's not going to be $250 like Analogue 3D, it's going to be $200 if you lock in that early bird price. So definitely sign up if you think you're interested. You're not committed to buying it, and honestly, I don't even know if you're going to want to buy the thing. All we know is it's coming, so it really is hard to say if this thing is something you might want until we have more details. But N64 on FPGA is definitely becoming a huge thing, and now even though it screws me up in voiceovers, the M64 is going to be a thing as well. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, of Analogue 3D or M64, which one do you think might actually win that cartridge-based FPGA console contest? But short of that, we're done. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.